school, kind of a summary of students' rights. Then I'm going to give you a summary of teachers' rights afterwards. For instance, if you are a student in a public school, you have the right to distribute literature during non-instructional time. What does this mean? It means that if you're a public school student, you can distribute tracts. You can distribute Bibles. You can distribute invitations to a church youth group during non-instructional time. What does this mean? Students, listen carefully. If on Monday morning you have a biology test at 10 o'clock in the morning and you don't study for that test, 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning is not the time to start handing out Bibles and tracts to try to get out of the exam. It has to be during non-instructional time, lunchtime or before school or after school. I'll give you an example. Just in January, 2 months ago, on National Religious Freedom Day, we helped to distribute 5,000 Bibles in public high schools in Orange County. 5,000 Bibles. People say to us all the time, how is that even possible? Public schools, Bibles, how can you do it? Well, real simple. We sued and we won. Long and short. The case began, we had a case down in Naples a few years ago. There's a wonderful group in Naples called World Changers, a Tea Party type group. They were doing some Bible distribution in Lee and Collier County. First it was going great, then the school district said no. They called us, we sued, we reached an out-of-court settlement which allowed total Bible distribution in public schools in those counties and throughout the state of Florida. So in January, right up here in Orange County, throughout Orlando, in 11 different public high schools, again 5,000 Bibles were distributed to public school students. We only brought 5,000, we gave all of them out. If you would like to do that in your school district, again, call us at the office in Orlando. We'd be happy to set it up for later on this year, toward the end of the school year, or next year, if you want to do it. But students have the right to distribute literature, tracts, Bibles, etc., during non-instructional time. Students also may wear clothing with religious messages or symbols on it, such as the Jesus fish, or a cross, or a WWJD t-shirt, or emblem of some sort. And the schools must allow it in the same manner that the school allows any secular words or symbols or jewelry to be worn and displayed. They cannot discriminate against religious symbols. Schools may not preview any literature prior to its distribution in order to censor the material. They can't censor your material. If you want to hand out Bibles, they can't say, give us the Bible, we're going to tear out Romans 1 because we don't like what the Apostle Paul said about homosexuality, then you can give out the rest of it ours. They're not allowed to censor what you are distributing. Schools may not confine literature distribution, Bible distribution, etc., to a designated spot or to a bulletin board based only on its viewpoint. We've seen cases like this, where the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Little League, etc., they get to distribute information, pamphlets, brochures, etc., outside the school cafeteria where lots of students are coming and going. But the Christian group, they can pass out their tracts or their Bibles in the janitor's closet over on the side. We see, I mean, seriously, that happens sometimes. They can't do that. If they're allowing other groups to distribute in a popular location, they have to allow you to distribute Bibles or other literature in the same exact location as other ones. Students may engage in free speech during class so long as the speech is consistent with the topic being studied. What does this mean? It means that you can talk about Christianity. You can talk about religion during class time, as long as it's relevant and consistent to the topic that you're studying. For instance, let's say you're studying about the history of the Roman Empire. You can discuss the role of Christianity, the role of the early church, the role of Jesus, the role of the Apostle Paul, the role of the disciples, etc., in the Roman Empire. Or if you're studying American history, if you're talking about the American Revolution, talking about some of the people that David Barton was talking about, you can talk about their Christian faith and the role that it played in them as founding fathers of this nation. You are allowed to do so. If you're a student, you cannot be muzzled about that. Same thing if they ask you to give an oral report or a written report. You're allowed to write on a topic related to Christianity or a religious topic, again, as long as the report or the oral presentation is consistent with the assignment. Think of all the different ways that the Bible or Christianity can be taught and can be utilized in public schools, for instance. Off the top of our heads, think of it. You can study or learn or talk about the Bible as history, as literature, as poetry, as government, as science, as a language study, as political studies, legal studies, as music. That's pretty much everything you learn anyway. In public schools, in public high schools, you can bring in the Bible as long as it's relevant to the specific topic being discussed in any of those different areas. Students also may meet at the flagpole. You hear all the time about students meeting at the flagpole, but for every opportunity where students have one, there's some other school districts saying, no, you're not allowed to do so. Yes, you are, as long as it's non-instructional time. Again, don't go running out to the flagpole if you didn't study for your history exam. You might need a lot of prayer at that point, but it's not the time to run out to the flagpole. Before school, after school, lunchtime, you're absolutely allowed to do it. We represent, among the various school districts and students and teachers that we've represented all across the nation, two of our favorite groups that get into lots of trouble all across the nation, who are always coming to their defense, are Child Evangelism Fellowship, that run the wonderful Good News Clubs, and also the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I've had the wonderful privilege of speaking at different Fellowship of Christian Athletes leadership conferences all across the state of Florida. Their offices are very close to ours in Maitland, and they're a wonderful organization. CEF as well, they do a tremendous job in terms of the Good News Clubs after school. Students are allowed to have Bible clubs or any other religious meetings at school on the same exact terms and conditions and at the same times and locations as provided for other secular uses and other secular organizations. What does that mean? If your school allows the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, some other group to meet after school, to use school classrooms, to use the school auditorium, they have to allow you, if you're CEF or FCA, the exact same privileges. Now, sometimes the schools try to get cute and try to get sneaky. We had a case, I think it was up in Minnesota, where the school district first didn't want to allow CEF. We told them, you have to allow CEF. Then they said, all right, we'll allow a CEF after school club, but we're not going to run the late bus for CEF. We'll run it the other days for the other clubs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, but we're not going to have the late bus for CEF. Wrong answer. Illegal. We sued. We won. And so they have the late bus for CEF. Out in California, we had a real interesting case once, also a CEF case, where again, some school district in California didn't want to have CEF. We said, yes, you do have to have CEF. Well, all right, if we have CEF, we don't want them to be allowed to distribute promotional papers, brochures, leaflets. You know how it is. You come home, you get your backpack stuck with them, and your kids do. Well, they can't do any promotion. Yes, they can. If you allow any promotion for any other groups, you have to allow it for CEF, for FCA, or any other Bible groups as well. So they were getting really mad at us. We tend to have a lot of enemies for some reason. I'm not sure why. So, all right, now they have to allow CEF, they have to allow promotion. Okay, I guess we have to do that. But if they're going to do promotion, and if they're going to be allowed to put leaflets and brochures in kids' backpacks, they're prohibited from using the word Bible in promoting their after-school Bible study. Now, I look around at this crowd, and you look like a pretty smart group, if I had to guess, because I, for the life of me, can't figure out how in the world you would ever promote a Bible study without using the word Bible in it. We went right back to that beloved school district and we said, guys, you're wrong again. You're 0 for 3. Take a seat on the bench. And they were allowed to promote using the word Bible in the Bible study promotion. Sometimes people think I'm making these cases up. This is all true. This is not fiction. These are the type of cases we defend. Again, CEF, FCA, these are the types of battles that they're facing all across the country. And it's really a privilege and an honor for us to be able to defend them in these different types of cases. We pray for these groups because they get into these sorts of battles all the time. Here's another thing that schools try to do to try to discriminate against Bible clubs and Bible groups. Here's the rule of law. Bible clubs such as FCA or CEF must be provided equal treatment and afforded equal access to school facilities such as the bulletin board, the intercom system, the club fair day, the school newspaper, the yearbook, the copy machine, announcements, times and places of meetings, financial sponsorship, or any other opportunity offered to secular groups. So if you're a school principal, you can't let the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts make an announcement at the beginning of the day that they're going to have a meeting after school, but not have CEF do it. You have to allow CEF or FCA or some other Bible study club to make the same announcements. You can't allow Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts to make free copies on the school office copy machine and then charge 50 cents a copy to CEF. It has to be the same, whether it's secular or a Bible study group. This again is just a short, brief list of the rights and privileges that students have in public schools. And I'll bet you that for a lot of you here today, you've probably thought it was the exact opposite. Because if you have any sort of history or experience with public schools, 9 times out of 10, the students are being told that they cannot do any of those things. Now I notice that we have lots of different candidates here today who are running for school board in various different counties. Support these people. One of the things that we always encourage when we speak at different events is to be activist. It's wonderful that you're here today. It's wonderful that we're able to share a few moments to tell you what the truth is. The truth shall set you free. It's setting you free right now. But you need to do more than that. Find out who these candidates are. Support them. If you're in a district that has a lousy school board, run yourself then. That's the only way to do it. You need to put people into office who are not going to discriminate against Christians in public schools, because we see it happening all the time. That was a little bit of a laundry list of students' rights. Let me tell you about a few teachers' rights as well. Teachers have the absolute right to use school facilities to meet in groups with other teachers on the same basis and receive equal treatment for the use provided to teachers for secular purposes if, for instance, they want to have a teacher's Bible study. Teachers, you can have a teacher's Bible study. Again, before class, after class, at lunchtime, etc., after school, non-instructional time. Teachers are allowed to use the school facilities for any sort of a Bible study group, Bible study class, etc., if they would like to do so. Teachers also may objectively and neutrally teach religious content in their class as long as it's consistent with the topics being taught. Very similar to what I said before about students. You know, as students, you have the right to bring up Christianity or religion if you're talking about the Roman Empire or U.S. history or whatever topic, you know, that long list of topics I gave. For teachers, it's exactly the same. So if you're teaching law or government or history or literature or poetry or science or languages or music or anything, you're allowed to bring up biblically related topics, Christianity-related topics, as long as they're consistent with what you are teaching. This includes creation science. Schools mess this up all the time, whether deliberately or not. Whether you call it creation science or abrupt appearance or intelligent design, science teachers, you absolutely, positively are allowed to present that material as part of an objective overview during a course discussing the origin of the universe. So you can present it in addition to anything with regard to Darwinism or anything else. You're allowed to do so. You know what one of the busiest times of the year is for us at Liberty Counsel? Christmas time. Why? Because we get cases all the time at Christmas about religious holidays. Teachers and students too may celebrate religious holidays so long as there's a secular aspect of the holiday also represented. What does this mean? These are the types of cases we get. Schools say, Christian students, Christian teachers, you cannot have a nativity scene in the classroom. No manger scene, no baby Jesus, no Mary, no Joseph, no donkeys, etc. Yes, they can. They absolutely can. But you have to have a secular representation as well. So if you're going to have the baby Jesus and the manger, you have to have Rudolph and Santa over here as well. That's the way it is, but half a loaf is better than none, right? And so, you know, and so that's what the rule of law is. But again, the word that goes out in most public schools is, you can have Santa, you can have Rudolph, you can't have the baby Jesus. That's wrong. That's illegal. If your school is doing that, call us. We're happy to help. We'll get on a sleigh at Christmas time. We also see a lot of Christmas pageant cases, because what you have is the rule of law as it applies in a classroom for a nativity scene, it applies to Christmas music as well. You would be astounded at the number of calls we get where someone says, they say that we can't sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing or O Little Town of Bethlehem at our school Christmas pageant. Well, yes, you can. Every year we have these cases. And the rule of law is basically the same. You are absolutely positively allowed to have sacred Christian music at a public school Christmas pageant. You also do have to have secular songs. So if you're going to sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing, or A Little Town of Bethlehem, or O Come All Ye Faithful, yeah, you're also going to sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Again, it's a half a loaf, but half a loaf is better than none, and you can still reach people doing it. But if the school tells you, no O Little Town of Bethlehem, no Hark the Herald Angels Sing, call us, because we win these cases all the time. It's stunning, stunning, the number of teachers, principals, superintendents, school board members, school attorneys, who either don't know what the law is or are just trying to give you a lot of bad information. And we've seen both of it. But again, you can have Christmas scenes in a classroom, as long as you have a secular scene. You can have Christmas songs in a Christmas pageant. Same goes for Easter. If you want to have an open tomb display or a cross or something in a classroom, you can do it as long as you have the Easter bunny or an Easter egg or something like that as well. But it's the same for not just Christmas, but other religious holidays as well. Teachers as well may wear religious clothing. Teachers, you can wear your cross, you can wear your Jesus fish, you can wear your WWJD jewelry, etc. Again, on the same basis that the school allows the wearing of secular clothing or jewelry. So if the school says no jewelry at all whatsoever, then you can't wear it, because they are being consistent in that regard. But they can't pick and choose and allow some secular jewelry, but no religious jewelry. That's illegal. Teachers, you may bring in outside public speakers to present a particular view, or bring in more than one speaker and have a debate in your classroom. We see this all the time, particularly in science classrooms with regards to creationism, where they'll bring in a pastor or a Christian scientist who is able to talk knowledgeably about creationism, sometimes just to speak to the class by themselves, or sometimes in a debate sort of situation. You are allowed to do that in your class. Final couple of things. Teachers, if you do have a CEF or an FCA group at your school, you are allowed to act as one of the Bible Club sponsors, even on the exact same campus. A lot of schools will say, we really don't want to have an FCA group, or we really don't want to have a Good News Club, but if we have to do it, we have to do it. But teachers, you're not allowed to get involved. Wrong again. Teachers, you are allowed to get involved, and teachers, you also are allowed to teach an after-school Bible study club at the exact same school where you teach during the day. Again, a lot of schools say, no, that's not good, because it could be discriminatory. What if you have kids in your after-school class that you like? You might give them preference in your classroom. Or if kids don't attend your Bible study class, you might discriminate against them in grades, etc. No, that doesn't fly. That doesn't fly. That dog don't hunt. If you teach during the day, you're also allowed to teach at the same exact school in an after-school Bible study club, CEF or Good News Club or FCA or whatever. Here's what's very interesting. I've just basically consolidated 4 hours into 15 minutes. And so if you want the 4-hour version, it's really good. It's well worth it. Again, call us. The office will be happy to try to set it up with you. But when I go through this material, even on a very brief basis like right now, do you know what the typical reaction is? And I can see it in a lot of your faces right now. It's like, I never knew this. How come they never told me any of this? That's exactly the point. What did I say before? Misinformation, disinformation, bullying. So much of that is going on in public schools. If you know or you have children in public schools, or you know teachers in public schools, or administrators, or principals, or school board members, pray for these people. It's very popular, it's wonderful, it's a blessing for students who are able to go to Christian schools or who are able to be homeschooled. But remember, public schools are a mission field. And public school students, teachers, administrators, principals, school board members are missionaries on that mission field. Pray for them, work with them, support them, vote for them if you need to vote for them. Help them out. And if you need our help in any of these things in public schools with regard to religious liberty and religious freedom, give us a call, because it's our honor and our privilege to be able to help out. Thank you so much. May God have mercy on the United States.